So, did you know these things? The chat is different. If you didn't know that, then when you started, the chat keeps going. Even if our streaming stops, the chat continues. That allows us at the studio to tell you what's happened and if we're coming back or not. All these things.
Okay, so what I want to tell those of you who are new members, you may not be aware that you have a place where you can ask a question. And Lee and I love answering those questions. We spend some time at the beginning of each Healing Wednesday show to go through those. You can find those in your members portal. Very easy. It's a tab that you just click on called Submit Your Questions. But you can also go to cryonmasters.com/questions. Now here's the kind of rules that Lee and I like to put in when you're asking a question. Number one, ask a question that you think others might be interested in. We ask you not to ask the really deep down and gritty personal questions, like what do I do about this exact situation? And make those questions concise and short so that we can spend the time to go through them. So we're going to now move to the questions for this segment. And the first one comes from William. William is from Glasgow in Scotland. Hey, how you going, William? So glad that you're joining us from Scotland. William's asking, in the circle of 12, who are all the ascended masters and what are their names? I only know 2, Jesus and Ashtar, to sit for healing with the 12 chairs. Lee, I just learnt a new master name, Ashtar. I hadn't heard of that one.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you, William. I've learned another one.
And again, thank you, William, for the question. I want to apologize to you, William, and many of the members for not being a little clearer and more concise and also directing you to where the answer is. This is difficult to tell you, but there are no chairs. There are no masters. So what is the Circle of 12? This Circle of 12 was given to me, and hold the phrase of it and the meaning of it and all by Kryon some time ago when we started. And basically, the Circle of 12 is a metaphor for the universe and the structure of the universe. Now, rather than me telling you all about this and giving you information, really, there is a full explanation in your portal. So if you'd like to go to your portal and look for what is the Circle of 12, it's me, and I'm going to give you the ABCs of it and the 1, 2, 3s of it and even some examples of what that structure is of the universe, basically groups of 4s, that really tells so much about the 12. And I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds of times the 12s are mentioned in Scripture and all. So it's about the structure of spirituality in general. That's the Circle of 12. And what it truly means is that we're surrounded by all of the souls, by the creative source, by the influence of the 4s and the 12s and the structure. It's us sitting in a very profound place instead of being with 12 masters surrounding you. So it's in the portal. And again, I invite you to take a look. And I apologize to you and the members that I haven't mentioned this earlier. It's there.
However, I do want to point out, Lee, that one of the beautiful things that Kryon guides us through the Circle of 12 meditations is it's all about you and touching your soul. And the scenario tends to be repeated, where you cross the bridge from the known to the unknown. You enter a theatre, and in that theatre you go onto a stage, you sit in a chair, and it's a theatre in the round, and you are surrounded by an audience. And the audience members are what changes. Mm-hmm. And there was a beautiful meditation, you can find it in your index, where Kryon invited masters to sit in 12. You made up chair number 12, and around you were 11 masters. And this was such a beautiful and powerful session to experience. And this is, I think, maybe where William's question came from.
Well, it's just close.
Was asking, I only know 2 masters,
Yeah.
so maybe he had all these empty chairs.
I think
don't
William
know.
is with so many people who just assume that the circle of 12 will be 12 masters,
Could
and we
be.
sit there in a circle, and and that's why I apologize that I didn't really mention it, the full definition until now.
But it could be that episode he's talking about
That's
as
true.
well. So
That's right.
I guess my 2 cents worth that I want to throw is that this may be a great opportunity for you, William, to go and learn about some of the masters that other people have found. And there's no right or wrong. It's this one and not that one. It's what resonates to you. It's what synchronicity brings to you. So through your life, you have synchronistically found Jesus and Ashtar. And now I have never heard of Ashtar, so I'm going to go and look it up and to find out more. But there are many humans that have been on the planet and have demonstrated what is possible. And so this is the invitation, William, for you to go and find some of those for you through synchronicity. Paramahansa Yogananda, go have a look at what he has done. Any other ones you want to mention?
Oh, I've got a lot.
Yeah?
But I'm not going to mention them because somebody will say, well, you didn't mention this one. So I can get into that. Oh, there's some profound masters on this planet.
There are. So anyway, let's move to the next question. And this comes from Gail. Gail is from Maine in the US. And she's asking, is it normal to feel that you have found love for yourself and source and to feel the peace, and then the next day feel that you cannot find it again? I think that's a really normal question, Gail, and I have a feeling that she's not the only one that has that experience.
Gail, thank you for asking something that most people wouldn't ask, I think, because they say, well, it's too simple, but I'm experiencing it. Kryon has spoken of, in the past, a mountaintop experience. In fact, we used to do this quite a bit, and we would take people up to various places. I remember in Chile, the Valle Nevado experiences on a mountaintop. We've had many times where we take a group of people for a week up the mountain and all. And when you come down, you go, I'm not feeling it. Just, what happened? And it's also true for simply like these meetings. You go to a place where you feel so good and it's a high. And then you go to sleep and you get up the next morning and it's normal. And then you've got, you got work or the kids or the partners or whatever. And all of the issues are there, and it kind of beats you up. And that is so normal. I have it. I think we all have it. Here's the answer to your question. Yes, it's normal. So don't feel that you're unusual because you have that. And why does it happen? What do you do about it? Solutions. We're always into solutions. This is what everything is about. Can you find that high, or even a semblance of it, or a part of it, even in the midst of the normalcy that we have? Can you find it in regular everyday life? And the answer is yes. The high points are the high points. And it's that way when you're listening to great music and you come down from it, or any other things that are so beautiful and you come down from it. That's to be expected. But you don't have to go all the way down. And that love for yourself that you talked about, that is what we're all trying to do. And that is to stay in that place where you truly feel something and you say, well, it's not as good as it was in the circle of 12, but it's still pretty good. And so that's what I'm telling you. And that is that don't beat yourself up. This is very, very normal, and we all work that puzzle.
That's a great response,
Yeah.
Lee. And I want to mention that one of the channelers that Lee and I have worked with for many years and has actually been on this show in the healing modalities, Marilyn Harper with Adironda. And one of the answers I remember Adironda sharing is that we get the chance to have contrast. And when we experience a contrast, that's how do you know that this is joy when you don't have, if you're always joyful, you can't compare it to not being joyful. So it's the contrast that gives us the experience. And hey, being from Australia, I have a bad kind of joke to share.
You're
But
going to share a joke?
well,
Okay.
it's the
Sorry.
thing. I'm talking about contrast.
Okay.
It's like, well, I didn't know my husband had a drinking problem till he came home sober. So, so it's that thing of the. I know, bad joke,
You know this
right?
is live broadcast, don't you?
It's a bad joke, but the point is the contrast of it. And what I want you to focus on is that you had the experience. You felt love. You felt peace. So you know absolutely you can do it again. And as Lee said, it is normal to go through feeling it and not feeling it, and feeling it and not feeling it. So the point of focus here is recognize where life is filled with contrast, and that if you've felt it, even that one time, you know you can do it again. And that applies to healing as well. If you have felt health at least one small time, you know you can do that
That's
again.
true. That is the model that you think about.
And we know in
Anybody
our,
who's been sick knows this.
Yes.
Is that the things that you had and took for granted, and you're really trying to get that. I want to say that there's a quickie question from Australia, a very sweet question, and I know that we don't have a whole lot of time for that, but can we do that one anyway?
Sure. You're in control of this show, so
I
we
am
can
in control of the time.
we can
I'm
do
in
what we
control of the
like.
vertical and the horizontal.
Audrey from Melbourne, Australia, she was asking or stating that she's been a member of the Circle of 12 since the beginning. She says, I have a condition. I sought healing for all these months, but it seems that nothing has changed. I am nearly 80 years old, and my condition could very well be related to old age. And besides, I could be at the end of my lifespan. Would this be a valid reason for not getting results? And I would love to hear your comments on this. And this is what I love. I love you, Audrey, because you follow that question up by saying, however, no matter what, I continue to live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, members, to the Healing Wednesday Circle of 12. I'm Lee Carroll.
I'm Monica Morani.
A special welcome to those joining us for the first time. I say that a lot, but there are always those joining us for the first time. Healing Wednesdays, how would you define what happens here? Sometimes it's difficult, but I can tell you what happens literally. We come together every single week of the year with special guests. We're going to have a very special guest today, of course. Questions and answers, we'll have some of those coming up. Discussions, meditations, and of course, channeling by Kryon. Well, this is a members meeting. It's different from the once-a-month free meetings. Members, I'm so glad you're with us. Did you know, maybe you didn't, especially if you're first time, there is an audio-only version of every single show. We did this by request for some of those of you in remote places of the planet who are having trouble actually getting any video, even the replays. They said, please make us an audio. Every single one we have, there's an audio. There's an index of every show that we have done and will continue to do. Monica has made those possible.
Yeah.
She is our archivist, and eventually we'll have an archive of every single channel Kryon has ever done available online. But this index is for Healing Wednesdays. And the index built by you, description of every single channel, every single Circle of 12, who the guests were, basically what happened, and it's every single date. So you can go find things that may be interesting for you that you haven't seen and know where to go to get them. Did I say that? Did I say it right?
You did. There's a whole library of replays. And for some of you, you'll have favorites and you'll want to hear those again and again and again. And so you can find where that is on that index.
There's more things in your portal. And then, of course, for those of us who don't know, those who love the music, it's proprietary music, so we can't just publish it. You can't go out and buy it, but you can get in the portal and you can listen to it there. All just the music for you to meditate to. And I'm quite sure as we go, there'll be more. If you're having trouble with this streaming, just don't be frustrated. Eventually, you can stop and watch the replay. If it's just too hard, and it changes from time to time. Just when you think you got it fine and your internet's good and all that and your Wi-Fi is steady, then something happens. And we understand this. It also happens from the studio. And so most of you are aware by now, but if you're for the first time, you may not be. We have a new chat system. And that particular chat system is new to us. It's been around for a long time. We actually used it last year, but something happened and we now return to it, where the chat is independent from the stream. And that means that if something happens to the stream and it goes dark, the chat remains. So our studio can get online with you, tell you what's going on, and if we're coming back or not, or whether it's, it's just a hiccup. Anyway, that is new, and we continue to work the puzzle to try to make a good experience as much as we can. But if you're frustrated, please come back. Replays about an hour and a half after the show. They're good. They don't have the same power to your browser that a stream would, so it's much easier to have a work. Well, we have gone to doing questions and answers, I think, the last 20 or 30 shows. And so we're going to do that today. And Monica, would you tell them about a little Q&A here?
Yeah, you can find in your portal how you can submit a question. You can also go to cryonmasters.com/questions. Very easy. Ask a question that others may be interested in. We also want to let you know we prefer not to have personal questions like what to do about my mother. Make them concise and short, and make sure there's actually a question in there. No long stories, no long personal dramas. But we all benefit from having the questions. And we're going to have our first question, which comes from Danielle in Singapore. And she is asking, as a Reiki practitioner, how can we heal and help others without taking their karma? That's an interesting question, Lee.
I like it. I like it because it tells me that there's a lot of information yet to those who are listening that they haven't seen in the books. And so I'm here to refresh that. There's really two sections to that. The first is this. We are in an energy, especially if you are using something like Reiki, any of these processes where you're dealing with a human being who may perhaps be out of balance, you never know, especially for those who are standing over them instead of even in long distance. That's a good question. How can I keep from perhaps taking their karma or even receiving their unbalance? And this is a question we've answered before in another way. It's in the Kryon books, it's in the channeling, and that is this. In this new energy, we are not, don't worry about that, because you have now I would say it's even more profound than what we call the Merkaba. There is an energy bubble around you as a light worker that is so profound that nothing is going to get through. This is why we've even said we've stopped clearing, even Monica and I. We've stopped the process of clearing when we go to hotel rooms and all that, because Kryon says this is now so strong. This new energy for all of us that I would say anything negative is pushed away wherever you walk. So in that, you're not going to take their karma. I guarantee you're not going to take their karma. And if you're concerned about it, just give a statement before you work on them, and just say, "Let all things be benevolent for me." And it's a statement that says, "Don't worry about it." That is very, very real, and I'm not going to go any further because we want to get to other questions. But there's a second part to this. Karma in general. Can I say it again? Kryon said, and this was in book number 1, I believe, 1 or 2, that he said that you and this new energy, as we evolve, as we get closer to spirit, and there's more of an ascension, I would say, feeling to this energy, you can drop your karma. We have no reason for this ancient system anymore. Karma has been with us for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. It's part of ancient systems. It's very valid. Everybody understands about this, but we've reached a place now where you can drop it, and you can drop it simply by claiming you can drop it. Some have said, Lee, that's not right. You can't rewrite history and say, okay, now we're going to drop our karma. It's not this. I'm not rewriting history. I would like to, if you interview, for instance, a Hindu who has gone through the process of an ascended, whatever in their religion would put them at a place that's higher than they were before, they will say, I went through a process and dropped my karma. And whether they went to Varanasi for that or bathed in the Ganges for that or whatever, they have a process for dropping karma. So this is not new. So what I'm going to tell you is now it's almost automatic. Don't worry about it. You don't have to slog through this karmic energy this lifetime. Kryon very early on says, give intent to drop it. Let's be done with that and move on to some of the other things that are far more, I would say, important to the planet than taking care of an old karmic attribute. Does that make clear?
It's very clear.
I know I said that very fast.
You did.
But I wanted her to know, and I wanted everybody to know.
Yes, very good. So we have Gordana from Germany, or it could be Jordana actually, Jordana from Germany, asking, how can we access and use the abilities and skills that we have from our own Akash? How do we use it from our previous lives in our present life? So Jordana essentially is asking about mining the Akash. And I know, Lee, you have talked about mining the Akash many times.
It is. It is I would say, a term of our new age. It's a term of the new energy. It came from Kryon, but I know that at the same time Kryon was talking about it, it was being observed, absorbed, and practiced by others on the planet. These things come naturally. Is it possible to take attributes from your Akash, good ones, and paste them upon yourself in this lifetime, including good health? And the answer is yes. There are channels about it. There's all manner of information that Kryon has given about mining your Akash. But more, we can offer you some information that has happened even on Healing Wednesdays.
Yes, indeed. There are many practitioners and healing modalities focusing on that very thing. So that's a great question. And I would encourage you to go and listen to the replay that we did with a practitioner by the name of Jenny Johnson. And she developed a modality. Listen to this title: EFT, Quantum Mining the Akash. So she's doing an emotional freedom tapping technique that focuses on going in, finding those hidden skills in the Akash and bringing them forward. Now, Jenny was a guest on one of our Healing Wednesday programs back in November 18, 2021. So you can go and listen to her episode again. And also, Jenny has many YouTube videos going through these kinds of processes. 2021. So you can go and listen to her episode again. And also, Jenny has many YouTube videos going through these kinds of processes. There's many others out there, so just use your intuition to find someone that can help you with that process. So we're going to now move to the last question, and this one comes from Eloise from California, and she's asking, what part does sex play in the scheme of spirituality? Should I even ask this? Many are embarrassed to even talk about it in a spiritual way. Eloise, you're very perceptive because this is for many a taboo subject. But we want to bring you the answers from Lee and from Kryon.
We want to bring you the answers from us too. I mean, this is something that we've selected today because of our guest, and we're going to deal today with a guest who was one of the originators of the work in Tantra yoga. So this is something that we want to let's just say it right out in the open. First of all, we are a very Puritan society, more so than most on the planet, and yet in that we are completely and totally, according to Kryon, misinformed on what some people think about sex and what it really is and what it means and how it would be played into spirituality because of what has happened. I have even heard those say, in all honesty, that sex is the original sin, quote unquote. It isn't. That is scripturally is separation from God. It was talked about with St. Augustine's writing. But that is where it's been taken so much. And we get these big mixed messages coming from everyone. depending upon what your parents thought about it and what they taught you, what your church says about it, what they taught you, movies and what you think they're saying. For so many, it's just dirty stuff. And you don't talk about it. And especially you wouldn't talk about it on a program like this. We're misinformed. What if it was completely and totally different? What I want to do is give you a quote. And it's a quote that I have presented in one of my books. It's on the internet, and from a man named Butch Hancock. And after that, I would like Monica to actually give you some information from what Kryon has said about it. Let me just preface this. What Kryon has said is that the coming together in this way, intimately, between two old souls of a spiritual nature is one of the most precious and most beautiful things that humans can experience. If done correctly, not dirty, not awful, and it's not something you ever have to be ashamed of. That's what Kryon has said. I hope this is good news to you because it isn't dirty. Now, here is Butch Hancock's quotation. He's from Texas, all right, ready? Quote, "Life in Lubbock, Texas taught me two things. Number one, that God loves you and you're going to burn in hell. Number two, the other is that sex is the most awful, filthy thing on earth, and you should save it for someone you love." If that's not a mixed
I'm sorry,
message,
that always cracks me up.
it is an incredible mixed message, but indeed, that's what we're taught.
Exactly.
So I'll throw it to you here.
Well, back to your statement of how some claim it's the original sin. I want to give another perspective on that, because when I wrote The Women of Lemuria, I was privileged to be able to ask Kryon additional questions to the information that came through from the channeled messages. One of the questions I was asking was about the seeding that happened when the female Pleiadians came. Here is part of the answer to that question that Kryon gave. Kryon said, "The star mothers who came to Earth did not have mates on their planets, and they were all volunteers. More than volunteers, they were selected out of thousands who wanted to come here. How does that make you feel? Was there love or attachment with the human males who were their mates on Earth? What do you think? Have you studied the principles of the Kundalini? Have you actually looked into the system whereby the mating process is more than mechanical? It was a sacred act and beautiful. And yes, there was love." And in addition to that beautiful quote we just heard from Kryon, in a channel given at the Lemurian Sisterhood in Kansas, Missouri, on August 8, 2020, Kryon stated that impregnation came with a ceremony and was beautiful and joyful, and both of them cried. I want you to think about that. It's about as far as from what happens today as you can make it. This is what an ascended planet looks like, because they know what's happening and they celebrate. You don't do that today. So here is Kryon's instructions to us about the beautiful sacred act of coming together and coupling. So with that, let us have a brief meditation before a channel from Kryon. And with this, I invite you to close your eyes. And in this space, let us acknowledge that within us, within our DNA, we have a spark of the original creation of how humans were created on this planet. Our lineage comes from the stars, and with it, it carries the energy of sacred union of female and male. A coming together that created a spark of light with a seed that grew into a divine human. Within your DNA lies that original seed. And just acknowledge the beauty of those female Pleiadians coming to our planet, carrying with them the seeds of creation. You have been birthed from a divine union. Every human on the planet carries this seed of creation within them. And so we just want to acknowledge the sacredness of our own existence. And we invite the beautiful sacred messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is the 4th channel of the month in a series of 4 that we talked about and told you. It's a very common theme that would segment now a subject into 4 sections or parts and then present them later in an audio fashion where they could be listened to all at once. Short channels that become one longer one about one subject. And that's the point. Did you ever wonder, and I'll say it again, truly what the purpose was on the planet? And you might think, well, it's something very high and magnificent. It is indeed, but not what you think. If you wanted to know what the actual purpose of a human being, old soul, like watching this program, is today, what is the purpose? It's to mirror the face of God as much as you can while you walk the planet. How about that? And you might say, well, there's got to be more. Isn't that enough? You might say. No matter what your true purpose is that you think, a task perhaps, something you have to do perhaps, and that is how humans think. Go ahead and assign something to do, but do it while mirroring the face of God. And we've given you some examples of ordinary energies that are difficult on the planet. We talked about the difficulty of walking with family. And we told you that a blood family or a chosen family is different from simply friends, because these actually have energy because you've chosen them before you got here. You all did. Now, this is a very, very difficult thing for many of you to grasp. And you would say, indeed, as I've said every time, I would never have chosen that. That's awful. Not that person to be my mom or my dad or my mate. Something went wrong with that one. No, it didn't. It was for your education. It's like having a teacher in school you didn't quite like, that perhaps rubbed you the wrong way, but you learned something. So there are good reasons why sometimes old souls and new souls come together in a family to teach each other things. And sometimes it's the child who teaches the parent. Indeed, that might be the case for those of you who are here. We talked about the difficulty in the workplace. We talked about other things that are ordinary things that an old soul, a light worker, must get through. We also talked about the principle, and I'll just say it again, that there is a tendency when you're feeling an awakening and a precious new energy coming into your life, there is a tendency to withdraw from the planet and go live in a section of the planet or a place in your city where you can be alone. Or perhaps you can choose your friends and live perhaps in a commune of some sort, so you don't have to work with the rest of the public, which perhaps you feel is a little darker than you are. You've heard this so many times. And history shows that that's exactly what you do. For there are so many examples of spiritual people trying to get away and become in their own conclave so that they don't have to be with the others. By the way, that doesn't often work. It also explains those who are shaman, who go and live outside the village, just in order to be separate and to then continue to absorb that spirituality, which they believed in those old days, by the way, that you had to be alone to have, because you got an absorption rate of the ones you were with. Something today we've even talked about in the questions and answers. You don't have to worry about absorbing negative energy anymore. Old soul, I'll say it again. You have a bubble of light, and nothing gets through it. Not if you've given intent for this. That's why you're here. But today we're going to talk about one that is even more difficult. Because as this energy of this planet starts to increase and show light, there's a lot of darkness which also shows. You know that. The metaphor is very clear. As you turn on the light in some place that has never had light, suddenly the dirt shows. More than the dirt. There are things lurking, perhaps, in the shadows. That's a metaphor. But even that which has happened in your home is that way. And so this metaphor is happening today with the energy around you. And suddenly you're seeing the duality start to increase between dark and light with humanity in your society. And you're seeing it. Suddenly you're starting to see that which is darker and lower energy as something you don't want any part of. And yet it's built into your society. And you can't escape it. What do? Kryon, what are you talking about? It's all around you. It's all around you. Opinions for this society, for instance, for America. Has there ever been a greater division between parties that are political than now? And in that, do you fight now and you didn't before? Does it separate families and it didn't before? And the answer is yes. Are there spiritual issues? That is to say, splits between those of spiritual systems and doctrines and that kind of a thing that are so grand that you won't even eat dinner with somebody who doesn't believe what you believe? And the answer is yes. You name it. And there are things that are showing up that never showed up before. The difference between races and what's going on, finally, that might answer some questions and bring solutions so that you can intermingle finally in a way that is kinder. Now, I just gave you a word. I'll tell you this. You are not going to escape these divisions, dear ones. You will not escape them. Politically, no matter what you believe, there's somebody else that's going to believe the other way, and they will be light workers. Are you aware of this? There are those who believe that every single old soul and light worker who watches a program like this and is attracted to channel will be one party, your political party, and none of the others would ever be here. And the answer is you're wrong. It's 50-50, just like it is on the planet. In other words, all of you old souls and all of you light workers, you have the same attributes as everyone else. Some of you are interested in one party, some of the other. Now, how are you going to work that when today there is so much animosity between them? Here is the operative word: kindness. Can you have the face of the Creator and meet with somebody who also is spiritual, and you know that they are very actively part of another political party that you do not agree with? Can you come together and decide you won't discuss it because you don't agree, but you love each other? Is that a little too mature? I'll tell you this, it's way too mature for most humans who are involved in this division at the moment. But the light worker on the planet, the old soul, is the way shower. And the more you can do this in kindness, the more others will see it. And they may not be fast to emulate it, but they'll know it's possible. And right now, there are those who don't think it's possible. There are Congress people who don't think it's possible any longer. There are some who will never run for Congress again because they're tired of it, and the country has changed too greatly. They say it's wounded. How would you like to be a healer? An energy healer, politically. Let me state it again. All of you will have to go through these kinds of divisions. You have opinions in your society. You'll have opinions about what to do about what's going on between the races. And they may not be the same opinions as the ones that you are with and love. What is the operative word? Kindness. Dear ones, you can be kind to each other. And you can agree that the opinions are different. But you can come together and say, we love this country, the situation, we love each other, we love the planet enough so that we can disagree about things and still come together with kindness. That's the operative word. Easier said than done. That is why you're called a light worker. These are the answers, truly the answers. It will not then get you to convert someone else to your idea. Instead, love conquers all. Dear ones, you can have a situation where you can be divided in an opinion on your society and still be very much in love and very kind. That is the new human being. And that's the new normal. You've heard the word? That's the spiritual new normal. Can you do it? An old soul can. You know how. You do. Think on these things and think of that which is kind to your neighbor, to your family, to those at work. And it'll change your life and heal your body. Because anxiety is a killer, and you know it. I am Kryon, continuing to be in love with humanity. And so it is.
From this beautiful space that we have been in, we're going to gently move into the next section of our program. And so we just want to allow a little time for you to make those shifts and adjustments, bringing your awareness back into your body, bringing your attention back into this present now moment. And we are delighted to be welcoming our next guest, who is Charles Muer. And Charles, are you there?
I'm here.
Wonderful.
here and happy to be here.
Oh, we are so happy to have you with us. So, Lee, you want to tell everyone about Charles?
I would love to. So, Charles Muer is considered the originator and pioneer of modern Tantra movement in the United States. Now, Charles is going to tell you a little more about that and some of the differences between the word Tantra and Tantra Yoga. For decades, Charles has dedicated himself to expanding his students' capacity to consistently feel energy, love, intimacy, and pleasure. His group classes, instructional materials, and teacher training programs give people practical tools which lead them to experience the reality of the energy body.
Now, through practice and training, students learn the power of a conscious connection to their own energy body, which enhances the ability to join energy with others. And in 1978, he originated the Tantra, the art of conscious loving format, sacred spot massage, and many other inventive experiential exercises, which have become the cornerstones in the curriculum of most Tantra educators.
He's written 3 books, released 5 DVDs, produced numerous educational CDs on Tantra, the art of conscious loving. Every time we have on the show a pioneer, it's interesting to me because that means that back in the 70s, he was dealing perhaps with things that people either didn't understand or perhaps criticized or didn't want any part of. And yet today, there's probably a tremendous amount of those who are teaching what he started. And so, Charles, welcome to the show. And I'm going to ask the question right away. How did you get into this? Tell us about your life and your path.
The short form. I was riding a subway train one day, and when I get in, I saw a book, and I went over, picked up the book, and it was a book on yoga, and it fascinated me. So I went right home and tried it and threw my back out, and that got me to a chiropractor, and that got me to Yoga for Health, the first television show on Hatha Yoga, syndicated in some 60 cities. And this is way back. This is in the 60s. My first class, he came up to me and said, "My boy, yoga needs teachers, especially male teachers. And I would like you to consider to train with me to be a teacher." Well, I did. And I ran his 3-state franchise in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Next step, next bit of luck, I tried to get on a subway train with a $10 bill. And in those days, they only cast $5 bills. So he kept rejecting my money and then said, "If you don't get out of my line, I'm going to call a cop." And I remembered there's a newspaper stand upstairs. I'll go get a newspaper and cash my money. The news guy looked at the $10 bill and said, "You think I'm cashing that $10 bill for a lousy 15-cent newspaper?" And I was shocked. And I looked up to the heavens, and there was a sign, "Lottery tickets for sale." So I bought 2 50-cent tickets, and I won first prize 2 weeks later. And that sent me west to California and then to Hawaii. And my students, I taught meditation, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga, dietary considerations. But my students kept stuffing the box for it. They wanted to know about Tantra Yoga because the rumors had got out that Charles did this thing. And I answered the questions truthfully. I gave my first talk thinking I'd be tar and feathered at the end of it. You know, when I started looking for a yoga teacher, I went to the Yellow Pages, and there was Dannon Yogurt back in 1966. There were no yoga teachers. Now there's that many pages.
Mm-hmm.
So I was ahead of my time there, and I started teaching Tantra, just putting together what I knew and what I was learning. And I did my first course. It sold out, and it kept selling out to the point where I decided I'm leaving California, giving my yoga schools to a couple of my advanced teachers. I'm going to start over in Hawaii teaching Tantra yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a complete flop. I didn't know how to market this new subject. But there was one couple who ran a church, and they said, we want you to come to the Big Island and teach our congregation about how to love each other better. So, you know, Tantra yoga is a yoga. And even today, there are two schools that will fight each other. When they see Tantra yoga, the Tantra people will say, that was for back then. And the straight, by the book, ancient Tantra yogis say, this is just glorified sex. And a lot of Tantra has become that. It's a wonderful way to learn how to change sex into sexual love. And one does this by bringing all of one's consciousness, all of one's love, and all of one's growing skills in the art of love. To be a master in the art of moving stuck energy in your partner's body, knowing where energy is stuck in your chakra system and knowing ways to move it, and then learning ways to bring the two energies into oneness. That's the yoga part of it. And the goal of Tantra yoga is oneness, is divine union, and is enlightenment. A lot of modern day Tantra is more about better orgasms, which you get. It's part of the roadmap when you're doing Tantra yoga correctly. Your orgasms become easier and much more powerful and joyful sounds. And they believe